Hey guys, this week's video is actually just mostly hands and voiceover, and you're going to watch me dye the 5 dolls that you see here. Poppy, I would really love to take her to a yellow and pink stage, but I don't know that the yellow will cover her orange. Then the Amaya next to her, of course, is going to be getting a pastel rainbow that you guys voted on in my Instagram stories. And we're going to go ahead and leave her actual rainbow in her hair. And then 24K DJ, I wasn't actually sure what I wanted to do when I started this video. Uptown was going to be going gray, and the last Amaya was going to be getting a cotton candy kind of a la OMG sweets thing. We're going to start with Poppy, and it's kind of a funny story with her. So I started by boiling the Rit all-purpose golden yellow and kind of dipping her hair in, and I really noticed that it was only really kind of making the orange darker. It wasn't really going yellow. So I decided that I was going to try and neutralize the orange in her hair with a blue sink wash, where I mixed the royal blue and the indigo. I knew I wanted to take her blonde, but I wasn't really sure how this was going to work. In the end, because her hair dyes differently, the pink turned like a brownish tan and the orange turned more orange. So to neutralize the brownish tan like green tint, I did like a sink wash in fuchsia really quickly, and it kind of brightened it up and made it a little more reddish. And then after I rinsed that, I was still experimenting. I went back, dyed the parts that had turned tan that were originally pink fuchsia, and then did another boil dip of the other orangey hair in the lemon, and I ended up coming out with this really beautiful golden orange color. Like, it looks more orange in the video right now, but in the final picture it's very, very beautiful golden blonde with strawberry colored stripes. Now with Uptown, I really wanted gray, and you guys, I don't know why I did the same thing I've done before. I immediately thought maybe it won't cover pink and did a boil dye instead of a sink dye, and it was immediately too dark for me. In the end, she went to a good home, and I got another one, made what I wanted. I don't mind the gray. I will say that this batch of LOL OMGs was really thinly rooted. So next I did a sink wash, and I used this on all 3 of these dolls. I used it on a section of 24K's hair and on a section of both of Maya's hair. I started with 24K. I took one of her buns out, and you guys, like, when I say they're rooted thinly, inside of her pigtails was darn near bald. I don't understand why the longer dolls have been coming out from MGA, the more and more bald they get. So I made sure when I sold her to let people know that she did have that kind of typical has to stay in pigtails rooting, because her hair looks lush as long as it's up in the original, like, what's it called, like the original pigtails. So I dipped a section of her hair in the fuchsia, and then I kept dividing the sections up. So she ends up with 4 sections, 2 colors per pigtail. I did everybody kind of one at a time, so I didn't have to empty the sink, start all over. So I did, the next was Rainbow Amaya. I sectioned a section of her white hair. I left her pink rainbow in. Again, this is a very quick sink dip dye. You don't want to leave it in long because she is going to be a pastel rainbow and not a bright colored rainbow. So what I would do is, after I dipped it, after I was sure I got the roots, I'd go back, do a cold sink rinse, make sure that the color was rinsed out really well. And then I also did the half and half for the cotton candy Amaya's hair. It did get a little on the other side, but the blue is darker than the pink, so it dyes right over it. Next, I did a purple sink dye. This again is for a section of 24K DJ and a section of the Rainbow Amaya. I took the top half of the first pigtail, where I dyed the bottom half pink, and I did this section purple. Again, just with a quick sink wash. If you wanted more vibrant colors, you could certainly go through and do a boil dye. I got her hair wet so that it would actually sink down into the dye water. Otherwise, it kind of floats on top. Like, her curls are very soft and light and very buoyant. So once I got this section of her dyed pretty well, I dipped it like a couple of times, and I would rinse it in between just to really check my color as it was going, which is something you're going to want to do, just to make sure you're getting her as dark or as light as you want. And then for the other half of her pigtail, like, I tied that one out of the way. And then with Amaya, I did her purple section next. Again, it's very much just a light rinse. It's going to look really dark almost right off the bat, which is why I do the cold rinses in between. It just takes the excess color out, and so when it dries, it's going to be even lighter than it looks when it's wet. So after I did those, it was time to get ready to start another color, and that was going to be the aqua. And I was going to use this on all 3 of the remaining dolls. It's going to be the second half of Cotton Candy Amaya's hair, and again, it's pretty much going to cover any of that little bit of light pink that got on the back of that side of her hair, so it's not that big of a worry. I will say, the amount of hair that she and the other girls were all shedding, I had so much hair wrapped around my hands. I actually accidentally burnt up my last garbage disposal because their hair got down in it when I was like rinsing out my sinks. So my husband had to go and buy a new $250 garbage disposal. He kind of laughed it off, but like I still feel really bad. He teased me about it, but like in good spirits, and we needed a new one anyway because ours was really old. But definitely keep that in mind if you have a garbage disposal, that the hair can get tangled around the motor. But these girls, like, they were shedding crazy. So I do always go through their hair, especially with Amaya, because her hair is it's thin, but she's got a lot of it. Made sure there were no leftover white spots, and if there were, I would make sure to separate the hair and re-dip it in the areas needed. So she was really easy. I mean, honestly, had I not had other dolls to dye in between, she would have taken all of like 5 minutes from start to finish. So again, with Pastel Rainbow Amaya, I section the next section that's going to be the aqua. And all of these are sink. I mean, it's just the hottest like tap water that my sink gets. Nothing special. It's just mostly, like I said, like her hair is already thin. And Poppy actually had the nicer hair. But even her hair was like, look at this. Like globs of it just comes out in my hand. And all I'm doing is gently like finger combing it. Like, hair was falling out, there was a lot of shedding, their hair was very, very thin on all of them. I will say, if you're going to get MGA dolls, just get them the second they come out. Get all the ones of one you want, because when Series 1 first came out, they had pretty decently thick hair. I think Amaya was never one who had, like, a lot of really thick hair. But, like, it got to the point where the later ones that came out of her were literally just, like, almost bald. She had enough hair to kind of brush back to cover the bald spots so that you couldn't tell, like, in the box. But as soon as you got her out, like, her hair was just thin and stringy and, like, it was a mess. And then, of course, it had all of that disgusting gel in it. It was awful. Actually, Amaya was my first, and I almost stopped collecting Rainbow High as soon as I got her because her hair was so disgusting. Lucky for me, I saw Sunny, and I thought, you know what? She's really cute. I'm going to give it one more try, and I got hooked after that. And now, Amaya's actually, Series 1 anyway, one of my favorites, and I have quite a few of her. This actually makes number 7 and 8. These two stayed in my personal collection, but I did go back and dye a second version of her. I'm going to show you guys the spoon method right quick. If you're trying to get near the roots and you don't want to risk getting it on other hair, just dipping a spoon into some water and kind of pouring it on the roots definitely works. So yeah, I don't know, like, I ended up dyeing another one of her that's, I was selling, and, like, people literally reserved them as soon as I mentioned that I was going to do them before I even finished deboxing them. I got a bunch of these dolls on clearance. I was trying to make a little extra money to put in back in my vacation fund, and so Poppy, I ended up making 3 more of her. I ended up making, I think, like 3 more of 24K DJ from this video, another Pastel Amaya, and a couple of, like, copies of some of the earlier Jade dolls I had made, including Rainbow Jade, both the ombre and the stripe version, and Mermaid Jade, and all of them sold out in record time. People bought them before I even finished getting them out of the box. It was amazing. You guys are so supportive. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at some point if you guys are interested in buying dolls in the future. Again, like, this doll is just completely bald in the middle, but I separate the 2 sections of her hair. This one is going to be, you know, like the indigo. We're really looking to go blue over top of this lavender. It does take a while. I kind of had to, like, scrub it. I'm sorry you couldn't see very well. Like, got my stupid arm in the way. At the end, like, I feel like I just didn't get it as dark as I wanted it in the sink method. I mean, you can tell, like, it looks kind of bluish, but it also still kind of looks purple. So I did end up switching to boil method here in a bit. I went ahead and finished the sink dyes that I needed to do, which was really just Rainbow Amaya. Like, she was all that was really left. With the green, I really wanted a mint, so instead of using any of the pre-existing greens that Rit already had, I actually just did aquamarine and then mixed in a good bit of yellow with it, like of the golden yellow that I had. And for some reason, like, it was a little harder to get the green to take around her roots, so I did end up, after a cold rinse, doing the spoon method. And again, just kind of dipping the spoon into the dye and then moving the dye kind of closer to the roots. Just to make sure that, like, they didn't stay white, because they didn't really take the dye as well. Alright, so as you can see, like, it's much better now. It's really minty looking. And again, like, I did leave her original rainbow in, so that it actually looks really cool, like, in the final product, which I'll show you at the end of this video. And then all that's left is the orange section. I didn't actually use orange. I think I used the coral. Then going back to DJ, now that the pot was hot, I went ahead and boiled some of the indigo dye. I felt like you could definitely tell at this point that it was turning blue much more quickly. I just kind of moved her head around the edge of the pot to get around the hairline, because it is a bit harder this way. You do want to be careful not to really expose their, like, plastic, like their skin to it too much. I haven't really had any problems with Rit all-purpose staining. It occasionally gets a residue. Usually you can rinse it off. I mean, you guys can tell, I just kind of make a mess in the kitchen and go for it. And then just scrub all my counters clean afterwards. But you should probably, I guess, not be as sloppy as I am right now. I was just kind of like, the heck with it, I'm tired, I want to get these done. Again, she was so popular, just way more than I expected. I mean, I had so many people requesting another version of her. I ended up making 3 more. They all sold almost immediately. Like, I walked in with her not knowing what I was going to do, and to have everybody kind of love her was so great. Now, for the bottom part of her hair being emerald, it took a while. I definitely had to go with the boil method. Because green cancels out purple, the first thing it did was kind of turn her hair gray. So I kept having to kind of go over and over it. It probably took about 10 minutes and multiple dips to really get it to pick up that emerald and stay like that really nice tealish green color that it ends up in the end. And I had to add, like, more dye just because I really wanted it to be very vibrant, which again is why I used the boil method. But yeah, so it took a while to get it as green as I wanted. And then, of course, at the end, I had to put her hair back up in the pigtails because she had too many gaps in the center not to. And then next up, for the orange on Amaya, I used the coral. And I think I actually... yeah, I think I used the coral. I think I might have squirted, like, a little bit of sunshine orange in there later. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see as the video goes on. But yeah, so I ended up using the coral because I really wanted it pastel. Like, I didn't want to risk anything being really rich in terms of this color. I did a vote on my Instagram stories and I asked you guys, did you prefer pastel rainbow or like a really vibrant rainbow on her? And you guys picked pastel, which I was super psyched about. Honestly, ended up loving her, keeping her, finding another Amaya on clearance. So like my stores in my area had really great clearances. All of the Amayas were like $9. And then all of like the OMG dolls and all of the jades were like $8. So again, like after I made this video, I went out, I picked up as many as I could afford. I probably like $120 worth of clearance dolls, and I spent like an entire day dyeing them. And like I said, you guys bought them before I even finished unboxing them. So I'm incredibly grateful. I know that like a lot of people have said I don't really charge enough for my customs, and it's always been my kind of thing. Like I wasn't really worried about profit as much as I was just worried about like recouping my cost and having stuff to do for videos. But like with the last ones, by the time I paid for gas, all the shipping supplies, all of the shipping, etc., and the dyes, I made a profit of about like $4, which isn't really like a super big deal to me. But I am saving up for vacation. So like the second round of them, I did charge like a little more, made a little extra money to put in the bank, but not by much. So if you guys are interested, you can hop over my Instagram, check out these lovely dyes. Like this one is the Candy Amaya. I don't know why it went bright when I was filming the end of it. I guess it's just like a lighting change. But yeah, you guys can hop over to my Instagram and follow me over there. I sell dolls quite often. Anytime I dye stuff and I'm not like 100% over the moon, like it has to be in my personal collection, it ends up over there. Actually, this poppy ended up there. I had such a huge response to her. I was so surprised. I ended up doing 3 more of the golden strawberry poppies for people. And so that was like a big thing. It actually took me 4 hours to do those 3 of her. Her hair takes a really long time to get this like kind of perfect golden shade. It's really hard. With Uptown, I really wanted a light gray for myself, but because I had kind of accidentally done dark gray right off the bat, she ended up finding a good home, and she looks amazing in this Fail Fix dress, which is the Preppy Posh daytime dress. I kind of need to buy another one though, because I forgot that was my last one. And honestly, 24K DJ, I called her Candy BB because she's just so cute, was so popular. Like I said, I made like 3 more of her, which they took quite a while as well. I did end up dyeing another Uptown for my personal collection, as well as another poppy that I ended up keeping. I kept both of the Amayas because this pastel rainbow was so dear to my heart. I did make another one that someone bought up like literally within 30 seconds of me posting it. She is definitely one of my favorites. I feel like this is what her hair should have looked like with stuff that came in the playset, but it was just kind of cheap and goopy, and I don't think I ever saw anybody post where it turned out well. Anyway, thanks for joining me, guys. I've got to go to bed. But yeah, like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, hit the bell for notifications here, all of that, and I'll see you next week.